met Kevin Strickland on his 62nd birthday.
Any thoughts in particular on this day?
I was determined to spend this birthday awake as long as I could. You know, never know if it's going to be the last one.
This is the 43rd birthday he's spent behind bars.
What it does to someone to be behind bars for 43 years.
I think I've been destroyed.
What he calls his destruction is not just the result of decades in prison. It's decades in prison for a crime he says he did not commit. Years spent dreaming of a life outside his prison cell.
Do you think about that a lot?
Yes, want it bad. Want it bad. People hurt you.
So 43 years, how have you survived this long to this point?
Hope, prayer, desire to return to society and bond with my children and grandchildren.
The prosecutor who originally tried Strickland for a triple murder back in 1978 is now deceased. But the same office, with prosecutor Jean Peters Baker now at its helm, is now saying he's innocent.
It is important to recognize when the system has made wrongs. And what we did in this case was wrong.
Does that recognition that you've been done wrong make it any better?
Yes, coming from her, yes, because she didn't have to say that.
That was more than a month ago. And yet here Mr. Strickland sits, what he calls preparing for the grave.
I turned 62 today, and I just don't feel I got a lot of time left. I've experienced a couple of heart attacks. I got high blood pressure.
And yet people are now standing up for Strickland, who's now wheelchair bound. The Midwest Innocence Project took on his case 3 years ago.
I think where the prosecutor and other authority figures agree that he should come home, I would certainly hope that our elected officials would give it a really hard and quick look.
More than a dozen state lawmakers are now calling on Missouri Governor Mike Parson to pardon Strickland. Among them, the Republican chair of the state's House committee that oversees their prison system. So now that we've gotten to this point, I'm just curious why Mr. Strickland is still behind bars.
The only thing I can tell you about that, slightly in defense of this system, is that it believes in finality.
That finality came for Kevin Strickland in 1979, following his arrest a year earlier for the gruesome triple homicide of Larry Ingram, John Walker, and Sherry Black. Police arriving at this Kansas City home found blood-stained sheets, trash-covered floors. Concerned neighbors looking at investigators in horror. That night is seared in Strickland's memory.
I know exactly what I was doing. I was at home.
Relatives confirmed his alibi at the time.
So at what point do police come to you and start accusing you of this triple murder?
The next morning.
And you are thinking...
This can't be happening.
The crime shook the local community. While Strickland was in custody charged with the murders, two other suspects, Kilm Adkins and Vincent Bell, were on the run. Police found Strickland's fingerprint on Bell's car, which Strickland says he had driven on multiple occasions because Bell was a childhood friend who lived just a couple of blocks away.
There was two houses between his family home and my home. My home, two houses, his home. And I met them and I was in the 6th grade.
So on that night, April 25th, 1978, you see them or you don't see them at all that night?
Yes, I did. Earlier that day, probably 5 or 6 o'clock, I saw them.
And so you had no idea their plans for the night?
Didn't share them with me.
He also says he was confident Cynthia Douglas, the only surviving eyewitness, knew him and would know he was not involved.
Cynthia Douglas then points you out as being one of the shooters.
Right. Yeah, disbelief, total disbelief.
Strickland now says he believes Douglas may have been coerced.
She didn't do this intentionally. Kansas City Police Department pushed her into identifying me. I believe they kind of like told her, like, either you're going to work with us or we're going to, place these charges on you. Might even suggested that she was involved in some kind of way.
His first trial ended in a hung jury, the lone black juror, the only holdout.
So then you have a trial. No part of you thought you're going to end up getting
no way, I didn't
convicted.
No, the system works.
That's what you thought.
This is a capital charge. This is a big deal. They don't make mistakes and grab the wrong person, do they?
What did the prosecutor at the time, do you remember what he said?
He come over to the table, I'm sitting there, and he tells my attorney, he said, I'll make sure this doesn't happen next time.
And so what that meant is, at the second trial, the prosecutor used every one of what's called peremptory strikes. The prosecutor's allowed to just strike people, both sides are, to just strike people without giving a reason. He used every one of his peremptory strikes to strike the remaining black jurors from the pool, and Mr. Strickland was convicted by an all-white jury.
So you feel that race played a role in this?
Totally.
What was it like hearing the guilty when you're in the courtroom as a teenager for something that you have maintained you didn't do?
I didn't know I could cry that bad. No, this can't be happening.
Both Bell and Adkins ultimately admitted to the murders and cleared Strickland in sworn confessions. Yet Strickland's murder conviction was never overturned. Then in February of 2009, a turning point after Cynthia Douglas sent an email to the Midwest Innocence Project with the subject, wrongfully charged. I'm seeking info on how to help someone that was wrongfully accused. I was the only eyewitness and things were not clear back then, but now I know more and would like to help this person if I can.
The most important piece of evidence was a recantation of a witness.
You remain hopeful today? You think you're going to get out this year?
More so now than ever.
But just last week, the Missouri Supreme Court denied a petition to free him, something his lawyer calls a procedural barrier.
They don't have to give an explanation. It's just rubber stamp denied. That's it?
That's right. It was simply denied and no explanation was given.
Kevin Strickland has served more than 15,000 days behind bars. If exonerated, he will be one of the longest wrongful imprisonments in U.S. history.
Let's just call it what it is. This is wrong. And everyone that works in this system must find a way to do the right thing now. The right thing is getting Mr. Strickland out.
So one of those people who could do that, the governor, he just compiled the list, announced 36 names of people he's going to pardon. You get out of jail free card, you get out of jail free card, but not for you, Mr. Strickland. Help me understand why this is so difficult.
I don't know the answer. I don't know why.
But here in the show me state of Missouri, it's unclear just what else Mr. Strickland would have to show in order to prove his innocence. According to Injustice Watch, a nonprofit watchdog organization, since 2000, the state attorney general's office has fought nearly every wrongful conviction case.
What's your next step at this point?
We took that petition that was filed in the Missouri Supreme Court, and we filed that same petition now in the Circuit Court in DeKalb County, which is the county where he is being held in prison. They have asked the attorney general to respond and to make known their position in July.
Another avenue is Senate Bill 53.
The Missouri legislature just passed a bill which allows a prosecutor to file a motion for new trial to overturn a wrongful conviction. So if that law goes into effect, the prosecutor would have the power to file a motion for new trial to overturn Mr. Strickland's conviction.
That you only want to be pardoned or exonerated, that a commutation of your sentence would not be enough. Why is that?
That's kind of saying I did it, but you feel like I've served enough time. No, I didn't do it. No, wipe it off.
How does it feel to know that the two people who admit that they were responsible for the crime, Bell and Adkins, they've already served their time, served about 10 years each. They did it. They said they did it. You say you didn't do it, and here you sit. Unbelievable.
I mean, how could somebody admit to doing it, come in and go out, and I denied it from the start, and I'm still here? You keep taking me back to feelings, and I really can't put them in words.
You don't feel anymore?
I'm kind of numb.
One thing he does feel is the burdensome sense of loss. His childhood home, now just an empty lot.
We had a nice little a ranch-style house here.
His brother, who's always maintained that Strickland was home on the night of those murders, tells us their mother may not have much time left.
One of the things that Kevin speaks about just obsessively is that he would like to see my mother before she's gone. It doesn't look like that may happen. I don't believe that my mother may be with us more than 1 or 2 years longer.
Strickland and his family continue to hope that one day they'll be reunited, although some will never see him free.
My father never lost faith in Kevin, and my father passed in 2011. And I believe that was heartbreaking for my father not to see his son released from prison, because that meant so much to him.
Any bucket list item that you dream of being able to do?
I want to go to the ocean. You know, I've never been on a beach, and I want to go out far in the ocean where you can't see any land, any direction. And not just go out there, but get in that water. I want to feel the power, you know, of God's creation. I want to feel that water.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.